In the split second when danger emerged from the shadows of what should have been a peaceful royal engagement, one man's reflexes would determine whether two of Britain's most beloved princesses would return home safely that evening. What happened next would not only showcase the invisible shield of protection that surrounds the royal family, but would also reveal the extraordinary human stories of those who dedicate their lives to serving the crown. This is not just a story about duty and protocol. It's about the moment when training meets reality, when years of preparation crystallize into decisive action, and when one person's commitment to service transcends the ordinary bounds of employment to become something far more profound. It's about the guardians who stand between royalty and harm, often unseen, always vigilant, forever ready to place themselves in danger's path. The events that unfolded on that seemingly routine Tuesday afternoon would ripple through the corridors of Buckingham Palace, capture the attention of a grateful nation, and remind the world why the men and women who protect the royal family are among the finest Britain has to offer. Detective Sergeant Michael Harrison had never imagined that a childhood spent watching his grandfather polish his military medals would one day lead him to stand between danger and the British royal family. Born in a modest terraced house in Yorkshire, Michael grew up listening to stories of service, sacrifice, and the quiet pride that comes from protecting something greater than oneself. His grandfather, a veteran of World War II, had instilled in him the belief that true honor came not from seeking recognition, but from doing what was right when no one was watching. The path to becoming a royal protection officer had been neither straight nor simple. After completing his education, Michael had joined the Metropolitan Police at 21, driven by a desire to serve his community and make a meaningful difference in people's lives. The early years on the beat in South London had been challenging, dealing with everything from domestic disputes to serious crime, but they had taught him invaluable lessons about reading people, assessing threats, and making split-second decisions under pressure. Michael's colleagues often remarked on his unusual combination of physical presence and gentle demeanor. Standing 6 feet 2 inches tall with broad shoulders and alert blue eyes, he commanded respect without ever having to demand it. His soft Yorkshire accent and genuine interest in people's well-being made him particularly effective at de-escalating tense situations. Victims of crime found themselves opening up to him, while potential troublemakers seemed to think twice when faced with his calm but unmistakably authoritative presence. It was during his 5th year of regular police work that Michael first encountered the world of royal protection. A senior officer had recommended him for temporary assignment during a royal visit to a community center in his area. The experience had been eye-opening. He watched as the protection team moved with precision and purpose, creating invisible barriers of security while allowing the royal visitor to connect naturally with the public. The level of planning, the attention to detail, and the seamless coordination between multiple agencies fascinated him. The application process for joining the Royal Protection Unit had been exhaustive. Months of background checks delved into every aspect of his life, from his school records to his financial history. Psychological evaluations tested his stability under pressure, while physical assessments pushed his fitness to its limits. The training that followed was unlike anything he had experienced in regular police work. At the specialized facility outside London, Michael learned skills he had never imagined needing: advanced driving techniques that turned ordinary vehicles into instruments of evasion and protection, combat training that went far beyond basic police defensive tactics, weapons handling that required split-second accuracy under extreme stress, medical training that could mean the difference between life and death in an emergency. Most importantly, he learned to think like both a protector and a potential threat, constantly assessing environments and people for anything that might pose danger to those in his care. The instructors were former military personnel and experienced protection officers who had served royalty for decades. They taught more than techniques, they taught philosophy. Protection, they explained, was not about creating an impenetrable fortress around the royal family. It was about enabling them to live their lives, fulfill their duties, and connect with the public while maintaining their safety. The best protection officers were those who could be virtually invisible when everything went smoothly, but instantly effective when threats emerged. Michael excelled in his training, particularly in the psychological aspects of the role. He understood intuitively that protecting someone meant getting to know them, understanding their habits, preferences, and concerns. Each member of the royal family was an individual with their own personality, their own way of interacting with the world, and their own particular vulnerabilities. Effective protection required adapting to each person's style while maintaining the highest standards of security. His first assignment had been with Prince Edward during a series of engagements related to his work with youth organizations. The experience taught Michael that royal protection was as much about public relations as personal security. Every interaction with the public was an opportunity to represent the monarchy positively, while every moment of inattention could potentially be exploited by those with harmful intentions. Prince Edward had been gracious and patient with the new protection officer. Understanding that Michael needed time to learn the rhythms of royal life, the prince's genuine interest in the young people he met during his engagements, and his ability to put nervous hosts at ease, taught Michael valuable lessons about the human side of royalty. These were not distant figures from newspaper headlines, but dedicated public servants committed to making positive differences in people's lives. After 2 years of varied assignments, Michael had earned a reputation within the protection unit as reliable, perceptive, and unflappable. His colleagues respected his judgment, while the royal family members he had served appreciated his professionalism and discretion. It was this combination of skills and character that led to his assignment to the protection detail for Princess Anne and Princess Kate during their joint engagement. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, was known throughout the protection service as one of the most demanding assignments, not because she was difficult, but because of her incredible work ethic and fearless approach to public engagements. At 73, she maintained a schedule that would exhaust people half her age, often completing multiple engagements in a single day across different parts of the country. Her direct, no-nonsense approach to royal duties meant she had little patience for excessive security measures that interfered with her ability to connect with the people she was visiting. Princess Kate, the Princess of Wales, brought her own challenges and rewards to protection work. Her genuine warmth with the public, particularly children, often led to spontaneous moments that could make security professionals nervous. Her natural grace and ability to make everyone feel comfortable meant that crowds were often larger and more enthusiastic than anticipated, requiring constant vigilance and flexibility from her protection team. The upcoming engagement was particularly significant because it represented a new initiative bringing together 2 generations of royal service. Princess Anne's decades of experience with youth organizations was being combined with Princess Kate's fresh approach to mental health and community support. They would be visiting a community center in Manchester that served young people from challenging backgrounds, offering them training, support, and hope for their futures. Michael had spent weeks preparing for the engagement, studying the venue, meeting with local police, and coordinating with the community center's management. He had walked every corridor of the building, identified potential vulnerabilities, and planned multiple exit routes. He had researched the backgrounds of people who would be meeting the princesses, not because he suspected wrongdoing, but because knowledge was the foundation of effective protection. The night before the engagement, as Michael reviewed his preparations one final time, he reflected on the path that had brought him to this responsibility. From his grandfather's stories of service to his current role protecting 2 of Britain's most respected royal figures, his journey had been shaped by a consistent thread of duty and dedication. Tomorrow would test everything he had learned, everything he had trained for, and everything he believed about the importance of selfless service. As he prepared for sleep, Michael could not have known that the next day would present him with a situation that no amount of training could fully prepare someone for. A moment when instinct, courage, and years of dedication would combine to protect not just 2 remarkable women, but the very ideals they represented. The quiet confidence that had carried him through years of service would be tested in ways he had never imagined, and his response would remind a nation of the extraordinary individuals who serve in the shadows, asking for nothing more than the honor of protecting those who serve us all. The morning of Tuesday, October 15th, began with the crisp clarity that often follows a night of autumn rain in Manchester. Michael arrived at the community center 3 hours before the scheduled royal visit, his trained eyes immediately scanning for anything that might have changed since his previous security assessment. The building, a converted Victorian warehouse in the heart of the city's regenerated industrial district, bustled with nervous energy as staff made final preparations for the arrival of Princess Anne and Princess Kate. Sarah Matthews, the center's director, had been coordinating royal visits for over a decade, but the combination of 2 such prominent royal figures had elevated the importance of this engagement beyond anything she had previously managed. The center, which had started as a small after-school program, now served over 300 young people each week. offering everything from basic education support to advanced technical training. Today's visit was designed to highlight the partnership between traditional royal patronage and modern approaches to youth development. Michael methodically checked each room where the princesses would spend time, paying particular attention to the main hall where they would meet with young people and community leaders. The space, with its exposed brick walls and high ceilings, created both an impressive backdrop and several security considerations. Multiple entrances, numerous windows, and a mezzanine level all required careful attention. Local police had positioned officers at strategic points, while Michael's colleague, Detective Constable Sarah Chen, coordinated with the center's staff to ensure smooth transitions between different parts of the visit. The young people who would be meeting the princesses had been selected to represent the diverse programs offered by the center. Among them was Jamie Richardson, a 17-year-old who had transformed his life through the center's automotive training program after a troubled period following his father's death. Lisa Patel, 19, would demonstrate the digital media skills she had learned while overcoming severe anxiety that had kept her out of traditional education. Marcus Thompson, 16, would share his experience of the mentoring program that had helped him navigate the challenges of growing up in a single-parent household. Each of these young people had their own story of resilience and hope, precisely the kind of narratives that Princess Anne and Princess Kate excelled at bringing to public attention. The visit was scheduled to include tours of the workshop facilities, meetings with staff and volunteers, and informal conversations that would allow the princesses to understand both the challenges faced by the community and the innovative solutions being developed. At precisely 11:30, the royal convoy arrived at the community center. Michael positioned himself at the main entrance, his earpiece crackling with updates from various security positions. Princess Anne emerged from the first vehicle with her characteristic purposeful stride, while Princess Kate stepped gracefully from the second car, both women immediately engaging with the waiting crowd of staff and young people who had gathered to welcome them. The first hour of the visit proceeded exactly as planned. Princess Anne's decades of experience were evident as she asked detailed, technical questions about the center's training programs, while Princess Kate's natural warmth drew out personal stories from the young people she met. Michael remained constantly alert but unobtrusive, moving smoothly between different areas of the building as the royal party toured the facilities. In the automotive workshop, Princess Anne examined the equipment with the keen interest of someone who understood both the practical and educational value of hands-on learning. Jamie Richardson nervously explained how the program had taught him not just mechanical skills, but discipline, problem-solving, and confidence. The Princess Royal's pointed questions about career pathways and industry connections demonstrated her deep understanding of the real-world challenges facing young people seeking meaningful employment. Meanwhile, Princess Kate spent time in the digital media suite, where Lisa Patel showcased a video project about mental health awareness that she had created as part of her coursework. The Princess of Wales's background in early childhood development and mental health advocacy made this interaction particularly meaningful, as she and Lisa discussed the importance of creative expression in processing difficult experiences. The atmosphere throughout the building was one of genuine enthusiasm and pride. Staff members who had worked tirelessly to build programs that truly made differences in young people's lives were having their efforts recognized at the highest levels. The young people themselves were experiencing firsthand that their stories mattered, that their struggles and achievements were worthy of attention and respect. As the visit moved into its second hour, the royal party gathered in the main hall for a presentation about the center's expansion plans and the partnership opportunities that might emerge from royal patronage. Local dignitaries, business leaders, and community representatives filled the space, creating the largest gathering of the day. Michael positioned himself where he could observe both the princesses and the assembled crowd, his attention heightened by the increased number of people in a confined space. The presentation proceeded smoothly, with the center's director outlining ambitious plans for new facilities and expanded programs. Princess Anne asked sharp questions about funding models and sustainability, while Princess Kate inquired about the support systems in place for young people dealing with trauma and mental health challenges. The audience was clearly impressed by both women's depth of knowledge and genuine commitment to understanding the complexities of community-based youth development. It was during the question and answer session that followed the formal presentation that Michael first noticed something concerning. A man in his mid-30s wearing a dark jacket and positioned near the back of the hall had been behaving oddly since the princesses entered the room. While everyone else was focused on the conversation happening at the front of the hall, this individual kept checking his phone, glancing toward the exits, and shifting position in ways that seemed unrelated to the ongoing discussion. Michael's training kicked in immediately. Without appearing to do so, he began to focus more of his attention on this individual, while maintaining his overall awareness of the room. The man's behavior was not yet threatening, but it was inconsistent with the normal patterns of audience engagement that Michael had observed throughout hundreds of royal engagements. Something felt wrong, though he could not yet identify exactly what. The conversation in the hall continued, with Princess Anne discussing the potential for expanding successful programs to other communities, when Michael noticed that the man had begun moving closer to the front of the room. He was not pushing through the crowd aggressively, but he was definitely repositioning himself in a way that would bring him closer to the royal party. More concerning, his right hand remained inside his jacket pocket, and his eyes were now fixed intently on the two princesses. Michael began moving through the crowd himself, using his size and presence to create a path without causing obvious disruption to the ongoing event. His colleague, Sarah Chen, noticed his movement and began positioning herself to provide backup support if needed. The local police officers stationed around the room also became more alert, though the general audience remained focused on the inspiring conversation happening between the princesses and the young people. As the man continued to advance, Michael could see more clearly that something was definitely amiss. The individual's facial expression had changed from nervous distraction to focused intensity. His movements had become more deliberate, and he was no longer making any pretense of listening to the conversation. Most alarming, Michael could now see the outline of something substantial in the man's jacket pocket, something that did not belong in a community center hosting a royal visit. The critical moment came when Princess Kate, responding to a question from one of the young people, stepped forward to get closer to her questioner. This movement brought her directly into the path that the suspicious individual had been creating through the crowd. Michael realized that whatever this person intended, it was about to happen, and he had perhaps seconds to respond. Years of training compressed into an instant of decision. Michael could not wait to see what would emerge from the man's pocket. He could not risk the safety of either princess on the assumption that his suspicions might be wrong. The protection of the royal family was his paramount responsibility, and every instinct he had developed through years of service told him that danger was imminent. What happened next would unfold in less than 10 seconds, but would be remembered for the rest of Michael's life, and would become a defining moment in the modern history of royal protection. The split-second decisions made in that Manchester Community Centre would demonstrate not just the effectiveness of royal security training, but the character of the men and women who dedicate their lives to serving the crown and protecting the values it represents. The moment crystallized with perfect clarity. As Princess Kate stepped forward to engage more closely with young Marcus Thompson, who had asked about opportunities for mentoring others, the suspicious individual made his decisive move. His hand emerged from his jacket pocket, revealing a large hunting knife with a serrated blade that caught the overhead lighting with menacing gleam. The weapon was substantial enough to cause serious harm, and the man's expression had transformed into something that Michael's experienced eye immediately recognized as dangerous fixation. Without hesitation, Michael launched himself through the crowd with the explosive power that years of physical training had developed. His movement was so swift and purposeful that most people in the hall would later report that they had not seen him coming until he was already in motion. Princess Kate, focused on her conversation with Marcus, was completely unaware of the approaching threat, while Princess Anne, positioned slightly behind her, had not yet noticed the disturbance beginning to ripple through the back of the crowd. Michael's trajectory took him directly between the armed individual and Princess Kate, his body becoming a human shield at the precise moment when the attacker lunged forward with the knife raised. The impact was tremendous, as Michael absorbed not only the force of the man's forward momentum, but also the desperate energy of someone whose rational thought had been overwhelmed by whatever delusion had driven him to this moment of violence. The collision sent both men crashing into a display table that had been set up to showcase some of the center's youth achievements. The sound of the impact, combined with Michael's shouted warning, immediately alerted everyone in the hall that something serious was happening. Princess Kate's personal protection officer, Detective Sergeant Amanda Foster, instantly moved to position herself between the princess and the source of the disturbance, while local police officers began converging on the scene from their strategic positions around the room. Michael's primary concern was controlling the weapon. Despite the shock of the collision, the attacker had maintained his grip on the knife and was attempting to continue his assault. Michael used his superior size and training to pin the man's knife hand against the floor while simultaneously calling for backup. The struggle was brief but intense, with Michael having to use controlled force to subdue someone who was clearly operating under the influence of severe mental disturbance rather than rational criminal intent. The professionalism of the entire security team became evident in the minutes that followed. While Michael dealt with the immediate threat, his colleagues smoothly implemented the evacuation procedures that had been rehearsed but never hoped to be needed. Princess Kate and Princess Anne were quickly moved to a secure area of the building, while local police secured the scene and began the process of determining exactly what had happened and why. The attacker, identified later as David Whitmore, a 34-year-old man with a history of mental health struggles and an obsessive fascination with the royal family, was carefully restrained and immediately provided with medical attention. During the subsequent investigation, it became clear that Whitmore had been planning this action for several weeks, having somehow learned about the royal visit through social media posts from community center staff and young people excited about the upcoming engagement. Whitmore's background revealed a tragic story of untreated mental illness, social isolation, and the dangerous intersection of personal crisis with celebrity obsession. He had no previous criminal record and no history of violence, but had been struggling with severe depression and paranoid delusions that had convinced him that dramatic action was necessary to save the royal family from unspecified threats. His attack was not motivated by hatred but by a profoundly distorted perception of reality that had led him to believe that harming the princesses would somehow protect them. The immediate aftermath of the incident demonstrated the careful balance that royal protection officers must maintain between security and public relations. While the threat had been neutralized and both princesses were completely safe, the disruption to what had been an inspiring and positive community engagement could not be ignored. The young people who had been looking forward to sharing their stories, the staff who had worked tirelessly to prepare for the visit, and the community leaders who had seen this as an opportunity to showcase their achievements, were all understandably shaken by what had occurred. Princess Anne's response to the situation exemplified the qualities that have made her one of the most respected members of the royal family. Rather than immediately departing as security protocols would normally dictate, she insisted on taking time to speak personally with the young people who had witnessed the disturbance. Her calm, reassuring presence helped to restore a sense of normalcy to what could have become a traumatic memory for vulnerable teenagers who had already experienced significant challenges in their lives. Princess Kate, equally concerned about the impact on the community, worked with her protection team to ensure that the positive aspects of the visit were not overshadowed by the security incident. She made certain that each of the young people she had been scheduled to meet still had their opportunity to share their stories, even though these conversations now took place in a different part of the building under enhanced security arrangements. Michael's actions had prevented what could have been a tragedy not just for the royal family, but for the entire nation. The psychological impact of an attack on two of Britain's most beloved public figures would have been devastating, potentially changing forever the way the royal family could interact with the public. His split-second decision to place himself in harm's way had preserved not just 2 lives, but an entire tradition of royal engagement with the community. The investigation that followed revealed several important lessons about the evolving nature of threats to public figures in the age of social media. Whitmore's ability to gather detailed information about the royal visit through various online sources highlighted the need for even greater care in how such events were publicized. At the same time, his profile as someone with no previous indicators of violent behavior demonstrated the ongoing challenge of identifying potential threats among the millions of people who follow the royal family's activities. In the days following the incident, Michael found himself at the center of media attention that made him deeply uncomfortable. His preference for remaining in the background, protecting others while avoiding personal recognition, was consistent with the culture of the Royal Protection Unit, but was challenged by public interest in understanding what had happened and who had prevented a potential tragedy. The response from both Princess Anne and Princess Kate was characteristic of their approach to acknowledging service while maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. Both women ensured that Michael's actions were recognized through appropriate channels within the security services, while also respecting his preference for privacy. The gratitude they expressed was personal and heartfelt, but it was also professional, recognizing that Michael had simply done the job he had trained for and committed to doing. For Michael himself, the incident reinforced his understanding of why he had chosen this career path. The moment when he saw the knife and realized that two people he was responsible for protecting were in immediate danger had crystallized everything he believed about service, duty, and the importance of being prepared to sacrifice for others. The physical confrontation had lasted only seconds, but it represented the culmination of years of preparation and the validation of a life dedicated to protecting those who serve the public interest. The impact on the community center was ultimately positive, despite the frightening interruption to what should have been a celebration of youth achievement. The royal visit, even shortened and disrupted, brought national attention to the important work being done in Manchester. Funding offers from impressed donors, partnership opportunities from other organizations, and increased volunteer interest all flowed from the publicity surrounding both the positive aspects of the visit and the professional response to the security incident. The young people who had been present during the attack showed remarkable resilience, supported by counseling services arranged by both the community center and the royal household. Many of them expressed that witnessing the protective response had actually increased their confidence in the safety of public events and their respect for the people who worked behind the scenes to ensure everyone's security. The weeks following the incident brought profound changes to Michael's life, though he worked hard to ensure that these changes did not alter his fundamental approach to his responsibilities. The internal investigation conducted by the Metropolitan Police and the Royal Protection Unit concluded that his actions had been exemplary, demonstrating exactly the kind of judgment, courage, and professional competence that the role demanded. More importantly, from Michael's perspective, both Princess Anne and Princess Kate had been able to continue their public duties without lasting impact from the frightening experience they had endured. The formal recognition of Michael's service came in the form of a commendation that acknowledged his exceptional bravery and professional excellence in the protection of members of the royal family. The ceremony, held at New Scotland Yard, was attended by senior officers from across the Metropolitan Police and representatives from the royal household. For Michael, the most meaningful moment came when his grandfather, now 85 and traveling from Yorkshire with the help of a walking frame, was able to see his grandson receive recognition for upholding the values of service that had been passed down through their family. Princess Anne herself attended the ceremony, a gesture that surprised many given the typically private nature of such recognitions. Her brief remarks to the assembled officers emphasized the profound gratitude felt by the royal family for those who dedicate their lives to ensuring their safety. But she also spoke about the broader significance of public service and the quiet heroism displayed by thousands of police officers, security personnel, and public servants every day across Britain. The Princess Royal's presence at the ceremony also provided an opportunity for her to address the ongoing impact of the Manchester incident on the community center and the young people they served. She announced that the royal family would be providing additional support for the center's expansion plans, ensuring that the positive outcomes originally hoped for from the visit would be achieved despite the disruption caused by the attack. David Whitmore, the disturbed individual whose actions had precipitated the crisis, was receiving comprehensive mental health treatment under secure conditions. The investigation into his background had revealed a complex pattern of social isolation, untreated psychological problems, and the dangerous combination of obsessive behavior with easy access to information about royal activities through social media. His case became part of ongoing discussions about improving mental health services and developing better methods for identifying and helping people whose psychological distress might lead them toward harmful actions. The broader implications of the incident extended far beyond the immediate participants. Security protocols for royal engagements were reviewed and refined, with particular attention paid to the challenge of maintaining the accessibility that makes royal visits meaningful while ensuring adequate protection against unpredictable threats. Social media monitoring was enhanced, not to restrict public discussion of royal activities, but to identify patterns that might indicate developing security concerns. For Michael, returning to regular duties meant adapting to a level of recognition within the protection service that he had never sought but could not entirely escape. Younger officers looked to him for guidance and inspiration, while senior personnel valued his experience and judgment even more highly than before. He found himself involved in training programs for new protection officers, sharing not just technical skills but the mindset required for effective service in high-pressure situations. The psychological impact of the incident was something Michael had to process carefully. While he had emerged physically unharmed from the confrontation, the knowledge of how close two members of the royal family had come to serious harm weighed on him. Professional counseling services within the Metropolitan Police helped him work through these feelings, but it was conversations with other experienced protection officers that proved most valuable in maintaining his equilibrium and confidence. Princess Kate's first public engagement following the Manchester incident was deliberately chosen to demonstrate that the security breach had not diminished her commitment to meeting with the public and supporting community initiatives. The visit to a children's hospital in London was planned with enhanced security measures, but the Princess of Wales insisted on maintaining the informal, personal interactions that made her engagement so effective. Michael was part of the protection team for this visit, and seeing her natural ease with the young patients and their families reinforced his understanding of why his role was so important. The children's hospital visit also provided an opportunity for Princess Kate to meet privately with Michael and his colleagues to express her gratitude for their service. The conversation, held away from media attention, allowed her to acknowledge not just what had happened in Manchester, but the daily dedication required to enable royal family members to fulfill their public duties safely. Her personal warmth and genuine appreciation for their service reminded Michael of why protecting such individuals was not just a professional responsibility, but a privilege. Princess Anne's subsequent engagements demonstrated her characteristic resilience and determination not to allow security concerns to limit her ability to serve the public. Her schedule remained as demanding as ever, taking her to communities across Britain, where her presence brought attention to important causes and recognition to people working to make positive differences. Michael's respect for her grew even deeper as he witnessed her refusal to be intimidated by what had happened, while still cooperating fully with the enhanced security measures that the incident had necessitated. The community center in Manchester became an unexpected symbol of resilience and positive community response to adversity. The enhanced support it received following the royal visit enabled significant expansion of its programs, while the national attention generated by the incident brought recognition to similar organizations across the country. Jamie Richardson, Lisa Patel, Marcus Thompson, and the other young people who had been present during the attack became informal ambassadors for the power of community-based youth development, speaking at conferences and events about their experiences and the importance of second chances. The ripple effects of that October day continued to unfold months later. Funding for mental health services received increased attention as policymakers grappled with the complex challenges revealed by David Whitmore's case. Security professionals across various fields studied the incident as an example of effective threat assessment and response. Most importantly, the successful protection of Princess Anne and Princess Kate preserved the tradition of royal accessibility that is central to the monarchy's relationship with the British people. For Michael personally, the incident marked a watershed moment in his understanding of his own capabilities and commitment to service. The split-second decision to place himself between danger and the people he was sworn to protect had revealed depths of courage and dedication that even he had not fully understood. The knowledge that he could respond effectively in the most challenging circumstances gave him a quiet confidence that enhanced every aspect of his subsequent service. The letters and messages of support that Michael received from members of the public surprised him with their warmth and insight. People from all walks of life wrote to express their gratitude for his service and their admiration for his courage. Many of these messages came from individuals who had their own experiences of public service, from teachers and healthcare workers to military personnel and emergency responders, creating a sense of connection across the broader community of people dedicated to serving others. His grandfather's pride in Michael's recognition was perhaps the most meaningful response of all. The elderly man who had spent his own life serving his country understood better than anyone the significance of the moment when training, character, and circumstance combine to enable someone to protect others at potential cost to themselves. Their conversations about service, duty, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from doing the right thing regardless of recognition provided Michael with perspective that helped him integrate the experience into his ongoing commitment to his role. Looking back on that transformative October day, Michael often reflected on the chain of decisions and circumstances that had brought him to that critical moment in the Manchester Community Centre. From his childhood fascination with his grandfather's stories of military service, through his years learning police work on the streets of South London, to his specialized training in royal protection. Every experience had contributed to his ability to respond effectively when it mattered most. The incident also deepened his appreciation for his colleagues throughout the protection service and the broader law enforcement community. The smooth coordination between multiple agencies, the professional competence of everyone involved, and the shared commitment to protecting both the royal family and the public had demonstrated the strength of Britain's security infrastructure and the caliber of people who choose careers dedicated to serving others. As Michael continued his service in the months and years that followed, the memory of that day remained a constant reminder of why his work mattered. Every royal engagement he helped to protect, every potential threat he helped to identify and neutralize, every successful completion of his duties contributed to preserving the relationship between the monarchy and the people that is fundamental to British constitutional democracy. The true measure of Michael's success, he knew, would not be found in the recognition he had received for one dramatic moment, but in the thousands of unremarkable days when his vigilance, professionalism, and dedication helped ensure that members of the royal family could continue their service to the nation safely and effectively. In the quiet satisfaction of duty well performed, in the knowledge that he had proven worthy of the trust placed in him, and in the ongoing commitment to place service above self, Michael found the deepest meaning of his chosen career. The legacy of that October day extended far beyond the immediate participants to touch everyone who understood that democracy depends on people willing to serve something greater than themselves, that security requires both vigilance and courage, and that the finest expression of citizenship is the willingness to protect others when they are most vulnerable. In Detective Sergeant Michael Harrison's response to danger, Britain saw reflected its own highest ideals of service, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to protecting the values that define a civilized society.